I have the honor of introducing Travis. I've got to know him, and you guys are in for a treat. But just for a little background on him, he graduated from Utah State in 2011 and is the founder and chief media hacker of Chamber, a new media advertising agency with offices in Los Angeles and Provo. His company designed the content strategy and distribution campaign for Kobe vs. Messi, the Selfie Shootout, which garnered 140 million video views and was awarded the Ad of the Decade by YouTube. Chamber Media has also launched campaigns for brands like Yahoo, Coca-Cola, Amazon, Land Airlines, TiVo, Glasses.com, Nordic Track, and Ken Garf, among others. Travis enjoys spending time with his wife and daughter, and they are expecting their second child. In his spare time, he goes spearfishing near his home in Los Angeles and downhill mountain biking when he's able to escape the mountains. So if you'll give a round of applause to Travis Chambers.
Well, this is an honor to be here. I think the last time I was in this room was when I was playing guitar and singing for a benefit concert in 2010 or 2011, and it's really an honor to be back and to talking to you. I never thought I would be asked to come back and speak, but this is really cool. I feel like we're announcing like the new iPhone 6 for Apple, slightly longer, slightly wider, but the same. Or a TED Talk or something. But this definitely won't be TED Talk quality, I'm sure. But I'm really grateful for the opportunity to be here and to share, what I've been up to since I left. I feel like it's such a great opportunity you have right now with this program that's being built. When I was here, I had to get a little bit crafty in gaining some of these skills. I knew that entrepreneurship was something I was interested in. I knew that, I had kind of bought into the rhetoric that I was raised with, that you go to school, you work hard, you get a job, you climb the ladder, and that's it. And it was when I got my first corporate job, I realized that I was an entrepreneur, right? In school, I thought that an entrepreneur has to be someone that's kind of crazy and someone that can just throw their whole life to the curb and just get consumed by this. And for some reason, I bought into the rhetoric that wasn't me, and that I wanted to have more of a dependable lifestyle and yada, 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 yada. So entrepreneurship, you do have to be a little crazy, but all that other stuff's untrue. And so I'm glad that you have all these tools here. I actually wonder if I would have been in this program, if I could have actually just sprung past the last 3 or 4 years that I've done working in jobs prior to starting this agency, and if I could have just hit the ground running, because I had to spend years and years, learning things that you guys can learn in 20 minutes from the people that you have access to. So I'm gonna go ahead and just go over some of the things that we do. Really, what I wanted to talk about, I wanted to show a little bit of the work that we've done, to just kind of show what kind of things we're doing and talk about the media landscape and industry as a whole. I would love to talk about the things that I would tell myself, my former 21-year-old self, and just for you guys, I released a post on LinkedIn this morning, just for this, that you can go check out. And then I'd also love to leave you with a couple, I guess, finer points of video marketing and viral video. Some really specific stuff that's not all this, like life planning stuff that you get. I'm sure you get a lot of, probably more than you want. But so we're a viral video agency that basically we do big tentpole videos on social, and this is something that's just become a thing in the last few years. A lot of big brands want branded content. A lot of medium companies want videos to launch products or to launch creative campaigns that they have. And under that umbrella of viral video, we have a handful of different services that we do that I'm going to talk about. But if you put all the work that we've done in the last 2 years, we've done over 250 million views on videos. We've driven over 3 million social shares, had 15,000 press features. We've done deals with thousands and thousands of social influencers, and we've drove tens of thousands and tens of millions in trackable sales. These are some of the brands that we have worked with. We've worked with Fortune 100 brands, and we've also worked with small brands that you're never going to hear of because they didn't succeed. Learning through failure, right? So, like I said, video marketing is a huge opportunity right now. I'd say the last 5 or 6 years, maybe 6 or 7 years, there's been a huge focus in the whole consumer goods brand marketing space for social content, as we all know. Up until a few years ago, that social content was mostly images and copy, right? So I imagine there's probably at least 100 of you in here that are doing something in social media for some club or product or brand or something, and most of it is just images and copy. And the reason that is because video is expensive, or at least it was. Up until 7 or 8 years ago, you had to spend a lot of money on a camera and a lot of money on equipment. Now you can go grab a $300 or $400 DSLR and get some free software, and you can be making videos all over. And so the price has gone down. A lot of the big brands and big advertising agencies have really struggled to figure out how to make money on doing social video, right? So TV for the last 60, 70 years has dominated pretty much 90% at least of all media spending, and that's changing. Social video is estimated to overtake TV by 2020, and it sounds crazy, but I know it's going to happen. So I'm going to walk you through kind of how I got to start Chamber and how that route went, and I'm also going to show you how to think less about what do I want to do and what should my major be, right? Your major kind of isn't near as important as what your experience is and what industry you're going to be in, right? So okay, I want to be a business management major. I mean, oh, great, congratulations. What do you want to do with it, right? There's just a billion things you could do. So I'm going to talk a lot about that, and by the end of this presentation, you'll know some good information about social video if that's something that you choose to think about. I think all of us that are going to be involved, at least in marketing or branding, are going to have to know social video in the coming years. So as far as content goes, we focus on hero content, which is large-scale tentpole events, viral, right? What does viral mean? No one really knows, but it's a term that a lot of people use. Hub content is kind of push content, so that's kind of like behind the scenes or a mini documentary or let's go see how something was made. And then hygiene content is more kind of SEO based. It's something that you do every week, and it's something that people can find and explore. So I'll go in kind of the background, but what we do is we do creative development. So we go into a brand and we say, okay, what are your objectives? And then we pitch ideas and we pitch strategy and we say, this is the medium we should use, and this is the concept that we should use. And that involves writing the script and storyboarding and everything like that. Then we go to production, and I think you all know what production is. And then we do influencer integration and casting. This is really interesting, and it's a space that really has just blown up in the last couple years. I think it's equally as important as social video. There's a guy named Shay Carl that lives just up in Pocatello who was a YouTuber, and he moved to LA, started an influencer network called Maker Studios, and he just sold it for $1 billion to Disney. And now he went and bought 300 acres in Pocatello, and he opened up a store actually in the mall here called Trixon. But that just shows the fact that Disney was willing to pay $1 billion for an influencer network just shows the immense power that's there. And just to be clear, influencers, they're anyone that has an audience or a following on digital media online that they control. So it could be followers or subscribers or what have you. So we work with them in all the content that we do. We try to always work with them because they give kind of a grassroots presence. And we also cast influencers. We're one of the few agencies that's doing it that, if we have to have an actor in the content, why not have an actor that has an audience and has an influence built in online? We do social ad buying. So this is just media buying for Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, whatever else that we need to do. Native ads, programmatic ad buying on partner publisher websites, like placing ads on Time or on Huffington Post and whatnot. And then we do press seeding and research. So this is individual personal outreach that we do to press. And this is what I got from Utah State. I was a PR major. This is what I was learned how to do. I just wrote tons of press releases. I've never read a press release since I graduated, because that's not something that's quite as common anymore, outside of like corporate communications and stuff. So PR has completely changed, and at Chamber Media, we have kind of positioned ourselves in a couple different areas. We've made videos that are basically new age PR. So you can make a video, and that video is newsworthy in and of itself to get press to talk about it. And that's pretty neat. And it's really good for brand awareness. And the metrics that we use to measure that is social sharing and press features. The other category we have is just videos that sell. And I'm going to talk more about those in a minute. And then we do video SEO too. So that's probably one of the smaller things we do, but basically any video we upload, we optimize it so it has the right title, description, tags, and we apply science to that to get as much organic traffic as we can. So hopefully I didn't just nerd you out big time, but at least I'm not talking about HTML and JavaScript and Ruby on Rails, because I don't understand that anyways. I wish I did. That's where all the billionaires are. But like I said, we work with influencers. They're really great. You'll see a couple of those are local. Utah actually has the second biggest YouTube community in the world. And I've had a lot of companies and a lot of clients ask me why that is, right? That's part of the reason we have an office in Provo, is because that's where a large concentration of really big YouTube and other social influencers are. My theory is that there's extremely talented people in Utah, and there's not a ton of media jobs like there are in LA. And my theory is that a lot of people in Utah have just created their own job by making content on YouTube, and they just have taken off with it. But while I was here at USU as a student, I started to get really linked into that community when it was first taking off, and that was a defining moment for me, becoming a part of a community that I felt like was a movement, and it's been really exciting. It's an amazing community. If any of you are interested, there's a Facebook group called YouTubers. The letter and then tubers. I'm the admin of it, so request it and I'll approve you. It's an amazing group. So as far as influencers goes, some boring statistics about why influencers are important. I'm going to skip that. Some of the things that we do that are really interesting is I'm really fascinated about things becoming commodities. Does that make sense? So oil, right, is a commodity. Dentistry has become a commodity. There's a ton of dentists. They're not making as much money as they used to because there's so many of them, and now it's like I don't have dental insurance. I just walk in and I pay $80, get my teeth cleaned. It's gotten commoditized. So what I've tried to do at Chamber is to be in this area with advertising and marketing services where we're in the emerging sector. We're not dealing with commodities, right? So when you think digital marketing, in my opinion, heavily saturated market is like SEO, pay per click, AdWords, advertising. I even think social content, like making images and copy. I think a lot of that stuff has become saturated. And so my success has basically come from one thing, and that is identifying what's in high demand and is very is not well understood, right? And thus, there's not a lot of people doing it. And so, so social video is blowing up. This is the year of social video. There's been a handful of social video analytics companies that have been acquired for over 100 million, and there's all of these video shops that are getting acquired, and it's crazy. We've had a lot of really crazy offers, and it's really exciting. So I kind of factor influencers into this whole social video thing because it's a completely new media platform, right? So for 40 or 50 years you had, I guess more like 30 or 40 years, you had your 4 network TV channels, right? And then it branched out into cable, okay? So media buyers and advertisers that were placing ads on 4 TV channels, now they have to manage, I don't know how many there are. There's got to be hundreds, if not thousands. You've got the golf channel, hunting channel, knitting with your grandma channel. I mean, that one doesn't exist, but it's just getting further and further democratized, and influencers have been the next thing. So, you take your 500 cable channels, now you have 500,000 influencers. And what that is that's huge demand, right? So brands are trying to navigate this space. They're confused, they're dazed. A lot of them are in their 40s and 50s and haven't grown up with this, and they don't know what's going on. And so that's the need that we've been able to fill. So we're able to identify influencers. We've built tech tools so we can see what their demographic is. We're able to see what their gender split. So as far as the influencer's audience goes, we're able to see what their gender split is, their geography, their genre, all sorts of really cool things across multiple channels, Instagram, YouTube, Vine, Snapchat, Facebook, and others. We're able to figure out what their worth is. So how do I know how much grandma, people knitting with their grandma's cable is? Well, that's a commoditized thing now. Now there's kind of like standard rate cards and stuff that they have. With influencers, nobody knows, right? And so we've really started to tackle, and we've come up with a process to say, this influencer has this many views, this much engagement, which is likes and comments. Historically, they've done this. And there's all sorts of other factors that we weigh in to figure out what are they worth? What should we be paying them? There's nuance. So with a cable network, you're talking to probably a polished account executive. With influencers, you're talking to a guy that's getting 1 million views in his basement, right? So he's not a polished account executive that's going to answer your phone call all the time. He's not going to send you a Christmas present every year. He's just some random dude. So we have to figure out how to do media buying with those one-off deals. And then relationships are really important. It's really easy to offend these influencers or ask them to do something that they don't want to do. So one of our really fun projects was with Nordic Track here in Logan. And this was a really fun project. They asked us, they said that Nordic Track is one of the most well-known brands in treadmills, but they said maybe it doesn't have the deepest meaning with people. And so we came up with this concept of, why don't we just get 50 treadmills in a warehouse, put 50 people and have them dance on them, and show that treadmills are fun. Like, let's make it, that's the biggest thing that people don't like about treadmills. They say they're drudgery. And we totally ripped off OK Go. Do you guys remember the treadmill dance from OK Go? We usually try to kind of rip things off that have worked in advertising because we want to be predictable. We don't want to take too big of risks with our clients' money. And it's really hard to be truly original anyways. But I'll play this video for you really fast. I have a half hour still. Okay, perfect. 1, 2, 3. example, one of our videos. So that video got 4 million views, or it's actually over 50 or 60,000 social shares now. It's drove over $1.5 million in sales. It's gotten over 150 press features on BuzzFeed, Women's Health, and America's Got Talent called and asked that act be taken on the show, and they tried out, and they actually got moved on to the next round, which was pretty cool. And then we had 12 influencers in that content. And these were mostly USU students that were in this, which was really cool. USU Dance Club. So this was, like I talked to about before, we do videos that are kind of like new age PR for brand awareness, and then we also do videos for sales. This was really cool because we did both in one video. We were able to get all the social shares, the press, and we were able to connect it with sales. And we were able to drive sales that were trackable through the YouTube ads that we ran on the video. And we did a lot of remarketing, generated a lot of remarketing lists to be able to do that. Really exciting. We just did another one for them a year later. It didn't do quite as well, partly because we had to throw an infomercial at the end of what was supposed to be a viral video. So that was a bummer, but it still drove a lot of sales. So I feel like, this project, I think you guys are laughing at Squatty Potty, huh? Maybe we should watch that one instead. I don't know. I almost don't feel like showing that one. How many of you guys have seen that video? It's amazing. So this was mostly done by the Harmon brothers. They're the guys that did the Poopery video, if you guys have seen that. So they're legends. So they're a sister agency of ours. We collaborate a lot with them. They're absolutely incredible. We've learned a lot of what we know from them, which has been great. I'll show this Kobe versus Messi video. So I did this. This is the last project I did before I started Chamber Media. I was at Crispin, Porter, and Bogeski at the time, which is a creative ad agency. And basically, I'll tell the story about this. I kind of get sick of telling this story because it was like 3 years ago. I don't want to be like Uncle Rico who's talking about how we almost won state, throwing pigskin, you know. But it's kind of old news, but I'll do it. So Turkish Airlines came to us, and I had been studying viral video for about 6 months at that point, for no other reason than I thought it was going to be the next big thing. And they came and said, we want the most viral video of all time. And I was like, okay. And just to back up a bit, I think I told you the reason that I started to focus on social media when I was here at school is because TV was like kind of commoditized, saturated, right? So I felt like, okay, if I go into TV, I'm gonna have to work 20 years just to get where I want to be. I'll go into social media, make less money, be less important, but I'll be able to be one of the more knowledgeable people as it rises. And that was the case. I was in the office in LA with 150 people, and I was the foremost social media guy there. I wasn't a director, I was just a supervisor, mid-senior level employee. But it was awesome because I got to be the guy for social. And so when this came along, I was prepared, and I had kind of like developed this program. And the program is honestly 90% similar to this, is what I had developed. And the big ones are the influencers, the ad buying, the press, and the SEO. And so that's what we did. And so I went into the creatives. I said, guys, you don't know anything about viral video. Because we were sitting in the room, and they're like, well, let's do this. Let's do this. I'm like, you guys don't know. How are you going to make the most viral out of all time? And so I kind of took a risk and told them what I knew. And I told them that they were wrong. And I took that opportunity to be really aggressive, right? I could have got kicked out and fired in that room because I was like not even supposed to be in that room. The chief digital officer just brought me in because he knew I had been studying it. So I told him what kind of content we needed to make. I said we needed to pick a big cultural thing that everyone could relate to, and the word of the year was the selfie, right? What's really interesting is once we launched this video, for Google Trends, the global interest in the word selfie doubled. So the selfie thing was already huge, and this video like brought it to the forefront and kind of owned that piece of culture and allowed this video to really influence culture. And then I did all the distribution for it. And then in the end, Messi punks Kobe in the last selfie. So that video just went crazy. What was really cool about it is no brand video on YouTube that had Kobe or Messi in it had ever done more than 5 million views. And that's what I brought up in that meeting. I said, look guys, like you're not gonna get a viral video just because you're so smart. Like it's not gonna happen. We have to put in these really predictable, reliable strategies in place. We gotta have a really big media budget. We need to get a ton of influencers involved so it feels like a natural, unforced grassroots movement. We need to do some really unorthodox press outreach. So we had this team of a few dozen people that were reaching out to 8,000 editors all around the world in their own language. We had 650 YouTubers talk about the spot, which just like blew up YouTube's algorithm. Their algorithm was like, okay, this guy's talking about it. This guy, okay, everyone's talking about it. So it went to the homepage, and we got a lot of referral SEO, video SEO traffic. But the video did really well, and it was just voted the #1 ad of the decade, which is really cool. So Squatty Potty, really quick, was, like I said, we helped with some of the executive production on there. Harmon Brothers did this. Insane, right? Insane. $17 million in sales. It quadrupled the sales that they had on Shark Tank on national TV, and it's continuing to drive sales. And look, they've almost got as many views as our Kobe versus Messi. But I can tell you this: if they would have made a video with a unicorn pooping rainbows and just uploaded it, wouldn't have done anything. And so a really big learning is that content is king, distribution is queen. So the whole premise, right, of Chamber Media after this Kobe versus Messi thing was, there's all these creatives in the world that are making all this stuff that gets posted and it just goes nowhere, no matter how good it is. So what we realized is when you have a really good piece of content, you've got to distribute it in the right way, and then it will have an opportunity to go big. So that's virality, guys. Virality is not what happened to me when I was a student at USU talking about my wife not understanding miles per hour in a car. If any of you guys have seen that video. That's like lightning strike lucky viral. This is like the viral that we pitch brands. It's predictable, it's dependable, there's a clear strategy, and it's not just luck. Here's another really cool one we did. So Spencer Billy, and worked with us on this. This is a crowdfunding campaign that we did.
Hi Indiegogo. Hi Indiegogo. My name's Lewis.
Ben Test, the iPhone Ben Test, the guy that bent the iPhone. It was a couple years ago. That's him. He's like a big influencer.
Have you ever wished your smartphone was a little bit smarter? Maybe you wish that it had a little bit more storage or more megapixels. No, this is all wrong. Let's be real for a second. We're sick of all these smartphones playing dumb with the bare minimum tech. 16 gigabytes of base storage, 12 megapixel camera, 10 hours of battery life? Really? Is that the best we can get? Well, not anymore. Let me introduce you to the Segis V2. It's got everything you've always wanted in a smartphone. It's even got a bunch of stuff you didn't know you wanted yet. So where is this dreamy wonderland? It doesn't matter, because this is the way you're gonna feel when you realize you're holding a phone with 64 gigabytes of storage.
We had a really big Facebook buy and a really big YouTube buy, and it did well. It got $1.3 million raised. And this video on its own had a 400% conversion rate, which is fantastic. So that means for the money we spent on the video, it did 4 times that in sales, trackable sales. We had a bunch of influencers in that campaign, and it drove a lot of press, and it did really well. It was great. Has the phone come out yet? No. That's crowdfunding for you. This was like almost a year ago. Who knows if the phone will ever come out? But we got a ton of people to pre-order them, so. I think half of them have asked for refunds already, but. So this was kind of transitioning from what we've done at Chamber. I kind of want to work backwards now of how did we get here, right? We did over $1 million in sales last year. This year we're trending to do $3 to $4 million, and we actually just are just signing right now a $2 million deal, which is great. Doubles the size of our company, and it's going to be really cool. It's going to be a really fun campaign. I'm excited to talk about that once that gets live. But so this is kind of my pillar texts, I guess you could say. I got burnt out from reading books, and I wish I would have not got burnt out. Once I started reading books again, these ones I read. So the 4-Hour Workweek was the first one I read. I personally think it's a joke, because the guy that wrote 4-Hour Workweek works 80 hours a week. I've seen him at conferences running around. He does not work 4 hours. And so, but the great thing about the book was that it kind of made me start thinking, okay, so it's possible for me, I was having a kid, I was working 80 hours a week in the ad industry, and I was going, okay, so there are people that don't do what I'm doing, right? There are people that have more control and freedom over their life. And that's when I finally, the light clicked, I am an entrepreneur, right? And so I never thought that I was one. And so then I kind of thought the 4-hour week was just kind of not very credible, right? I don't know many people that run companies that work 4 hours a week. And I don't know. Maybe they're called investors, right? So then I read the $100 Startup, and I'm really excited about the program you guys have here. That's doing this. This is the book that made me realize that it showed me the path, and it didn't tell me I was going to work 4 hours a week. It interviewed a bunch of people that worked 30, 40, 50, 20 hours a week, realistic kind of things. And so that got me really excited. It also made me realize that I didn't need capital, and I didn't need this huge, big, hairy idea that I was going to build like Twitter that was going to run for 8 years and still hasn't made $1. I didn't have to go that route, right? And then I read this book called Trust Me, I'm Lying, Confessions of a Media Manipulator by Ryan Holiday. And this guy is a genius. He has another book called about growth hacking. And by the way, growth hacking is a huge thing too. You guys should be studying that if you're interested in this field. And he was promoting a movie, an indie movie that was one of those indie movies, like most indie movies, that was never going to go anywhere. It was a super offensive movie. So he tagged their own billboards that they had put. He went up and he spray painted them. And then he sent a bunch of emails from fake person's names to press with pictures of the billboard, talking about how angry they were and how upset they were about this movie, and it just exploded. New York Times wrote about how enraged people were, when really it was just this guy pretending to be like 10 people, right? So he talks about it in this book. He has some guilt about that and how unethical that was and very illegal. But I loved it because I was like, okay, this is awesome, right? Like, I'm not some big marketing guy sitting on a throne with this huge budget. I'm just this little guy that's trying to figure everything out. And so there are ways to hack media. And that's why my title is Chief Media Hacker, is because I always want to figure out the way to use new and emerging media to get more out of it than I should be getting. Not by spray painting billboards, but by just using media in a really efficient way. And then the other huge game changer was an article by James Altucher. How many of you guys have heard of him? Awesome, nobody. Cool. Well, he's awesome, so you should study him. He's just a no-nonsense entrepreneur, and he posted this thing on Quora, and all he did, he's one of those like multi-startup guys. He's exited all sorts of startups. He's super rich, doesn't care about status, doesn't drive a Lamborghini. He just loves like talking about this stuff, and that's what I loved about him. But he just posted this thing that just said, I'm going to tell you just one-liners about what you should do and not do. And the thing that hit me so hard was one of his lines was, always start with a service, right? Now, sometimes you could start with a product if you have a really good product and you know that you have a really good chance of success. But I was really risk adverse, right? I'd been told my whole life that I needed to be a corporate ladder climbing lifer, right? Climb the ladder, and that was like the pattern that I knew, right? First world problems, right? So that hit me. I thought, okay, I don't have to have this big, hairy, insane, amazing idea. All I got to do is just start with a service, and I'll figure it out from there. And so that's what I did. I started with this service, and it was really hard. But eventually, people started hiring me for my expertise, and now I've been able to learn a lot of things by doing work for people through service. And now I'm having opportunities to do products, like this influencer tech product that I'm helping build, which is really exciting. And so that's one of my suggestions, is to start a service. Now, I think this will work. This was a defining moment for me. So I was at this meetup, YouTuber meetup, and Devin Supertramp was putting out. How many guys have you heard of Devin Supertramp? He's like the godfather. He's like the granddaddy of the Utah YouTube world. He just took us under his wing and told us that we should just go for it. And we were at this meetup.
How would you really enjoy spending your life? Well, it's so amazing. As a result of our kind of educational system, crowds of students say, well, we'd like to be painters, we'd like to be poets, we'd like to be writers, but as everybody...
This is what I want to do.
What do you desire? What makes you itch? What sort of a situation would you like? Let's suppose, I do this often in vocational guidance of students. They come to me and say, well, we're getting out of college and we haven't the faintest idea what we want to do. So I always ask the question, what would you like to do if money were no object? How would you really enjoy spending your life? Well, it's so amazing. As a result of our kind of educational system, crowds of students say, well, we'd like to be painters, we'd like to be poets, we'd like to be writers, but as everybody knows, you can't earn any money that way. Or another person says, well, I'd like to live an out-of-doors life and ride horses. I say, do you want to teach in a riding school? Let's go through with it. What do you want to do? When we finally got down to something which the individual says he really wants to do, I will say to him, you do that. And forget the money. Because if you say that getting the money is the most important thing, you will spend your life completely wasting your time. You'll be doing things you don't like doing in order to go on living, that is, to go on doing things you don't like doing, which is stupid. Better to have a short life that is full of what you like doing than a long life spent in a miserable way. And after all, if you do really like what you're doing, it doesn't matter what it is, you can eventually turn it, you could eventually become a master of it. It's the only way to become a master of something, to be really with it. And then you'll be able to get a good fee for whatever it is. So don't worry too much. Somebody's interested in everything. And anything you can be interested in, you'll find others who will. But it's absolutely stupid to spend your time doing things you don't like in order to go on spending things you don't like and doing things you don't like, and to teach your children to follow in the same track. See, what we're doing is we're bringing up children and educating them to live the same sort of lives we're living, in order that they may justify themselves and find satisfaction in life by bringing up their children, to bring up their children to do the same thing, so it's all wretch and no vomit. It never gets there. And so, therefore, it's so important to consider this question: what do I desire?
So I love that video. That video hit me really hard. How many of you guys have seen that before? Thanks. So that's kind of like the premise I want to really express is, for me, my passion in life ever since I was young was, when I was 8, I told my dad I wanted to own an ad agency. Really weird. I was a weird kid. And like, I got into this ad agency, right? And I kind of like, it wasn't everything I hoped, right? And so what I started to realize is my passion is just spending time with my family. Like, my passion is very basic. It's very simple. Like, I like all sorts of things, but for me, just spending time and playing with my kids, that's what I want, right? That's kind of all I care about. So I thought, okay, well, I just need to build something that allows me to do that, and that's what this has done. And I kind of realized too that there is no limits. And when I was in school, I'll go into that in a second. I have all these things I've written down, but I'll go over that kind of explain that. But I hope you guys will really let that sink in. When I kind of saw that, I was like, yeah, sure. I'm gonna go be a painter. I'm gonna go paint like landscapes. And I'm like, okay, that's the like epitome of starving artist, right? And by the way, I didn't have any interest in doing that, but I feel like that's like the stereotypical cliche do what you love thing. But now I'll say, hands down, there are 1,000 ways to make money being a painter that paints on canvas. And it's just a matter of thinking differently. And it's not a matter of just doing what you love and just pounding at it relentlessly without thinking. It's a matter of looking at industries and looking at trends and being able to figure out where the monetization comes in, right? And so there's always a way to add value no matter what it is. And a lot of times that route is just doing something differently and just thinking differently. So my first job was College Works painting. Worst experience of my life. It was like one of those like multi-level fake internship things where you like work your butt off and then they just kind of get screwed and say goodbye type things. But it was awesome because it taught me what I didn't want to do. It also taught me how to not get taken advantage of. It was a really good coming of age job. Then I went to IQ Agency, which is a digital agency in Atlanta, and kind of like at CPB, I just took this bulldog approach because I didn't want to be the intern that like got everyone's coffee and said please and thank you. And so I just like threw myself in everyone's face at the risk of everyone hating me. And they ended up giving me this really cool project, and we built this web IQ quiz, which tested people's how much they knew about the internet, right? And it was like this branding thing for the agency that helped them. They ended up getting 3 really big multi-million-dollar clients out of the exposure from this content marketing thing. So that's where I got my first love of viral stuff. It was like this viral quiz. Then I went to Xylem, or Waterlog. It's here in Logan. I was doing marketing for water level monitoring, like data loggers, and I got some really like good general marketing experience. But what I did is I moonlight, and this is the same thing I did while I was in school, is I'd get my classwork done, and then I would just work obsessed on the things, on gaining experience in the things I needed. So internships, taking on projects, starting things. Like I started a MMA fight here in Cache Valley, which is really weird. I made money for people fighting each other, but we had 1,000 people coming to each of our fights, and I learned a ton of stuff about that. Eventually lost interest in it, gave it to the employees I had. I'm so glad I did that. Like I remember crying myself to sleep one night because I had borrowed $3,000 from a friend, and we had 2,000 people show up, but someone locked us out. They dropped our venue the week of, so we had to go to the small venue, to the Castle Manor. Wildly successful, our marketing worked, 2,000 people showed up, we could only fit 700 in there. And so we lost a bunch of money on that one. And I remember just like crying myself to sleep because I owed this guy $2,000, my friend $2,000. And just like that experience, and I think just being willing to just be in a in a really scary situation is how I've been able to achieve my dream to do what I really like doing. Then I went to CPB, a creative agency. Then I went to 20th Century Fox with McBeard, and this is the thing, guys. So I was getting all my experience, right? I was like taking the punches, learning how to duck, and doing all these things. But I was chasing money, right? It was around this time that I saw that video, and my mind kind of started to change. The gear started to change. So here I was at 20th Century Fox. I was director over creative accounts. So my job was to do all the social media for feature films, like Maze Runner and Gone Girl, which I hate that movie, but I had to work on it, and like Let's Be Cops, and some of those really, I mean, how cool would that be, right? When you sit here and think about it, like, man, you could do social media on movies in Hollywood. That's so cool. I hated it. It was horrible. Like, I won't go into all the details, but I was doing it for the money and something that I just thought I would enjoy doing. And so that's when I kind of really sucked at doing that job, and they laid me off. And they laid me off because I didn't like it, and because I wasn't passionate about it, I wasn't super aggressive like I was in those other jobs on cool projects. And so they laid me off, they gave me severance, and that severance is what started Chumber Media. Thank goodness that I got laid off. Best thing that ever happened to me. So I just want to go, I think I'm almost out of time here, right? Just a few more minutes. Is that right? So I wrote this LinkedIn article for you guys, and what I did is I just explored what would I tell myself, what would I tell my 21-year-old self, and of course this is catered to me, so hopefully it's of help to you guys. So the first one is what I was just talking about. Never play defense. When I was at Fox, I was kind of intimidated. I felt like I was kind of out of my breadth, like things were too big for me, and so I kind of like sat back and I kind of clammed up. And because of that, I started to become irrelevant, and that's why I got laid off. And so when I learned now when a client pushes on me or when a project gets hairy, that's the time to just push. That's the time to just turn on bulldog mode and really add something to the conversation and to not retreat. So I just recommend whatever situation you guys are in, just throw yourselves into it and don't hold back, because it sucks getting laid off because you were too polite or something. Stop viewing yourself as young. I have a baby face, and so I always looked at myself as, I have a baby face and a higher voice, so I always look at myself as this younger person. And so I started to try and imagine myself as an older person, and it helped me a lot when I was communicating and being more confident and pitching. Don't burn bridges. it's never worth burning a bridge. It almost will always come back to bite you. And if someone does something you don't like and you kind of like, give them a 1-2 punch and tell them, this is how it is, it never feels good afterwards. Read a ton of books. Don't get burned out. And I didn't read a book. I'm serious. I didn't really read a book for like 3 years after school. It was the worst mistake I ever made. Now I read 2 or 3 books a month. Audiobooks are awesome. Just stop scrolling your Facebook feed 3 hours a day. Throw in an audiobook, and it's like amazing. Every no is a step closer to a yes. So I used to pitch. So at Chamber Media, we used to have about a 60-70% win rate whenever we would pitch. Now we have a 10% win rate when we pitch, and I'm really happy about it. And the reason is because we're pitching 7 or 8 times more of the work now. So we used to just pitch really warm leads because at the time when we first started, I couldn't handle getting a no, right? I had bills to pay, and I was scared and kind of offended and taking everything personally. Slowly I've learned to just, when I get a no, to just realize that there's more fish in the sea and that it's a volume game. The more I pitch, the more collective yeses I'm going to get. Ask for feedback. I remember in one of my jobs, I was really scared about my performance review, and that was the time that I switched jobs, and I remember feeling, oh yes, I missed my performance review. I don't have to hear about like how I need to improve and what I'm not good at. But then when I owned my own business and we would work for a client and then they wouldn't hire us again, I started thinking, okay, I better ask them what's going on. And when I asked them, they would tell us what we did wrong. And a few of those clients ended up coming back to us because we asked them what we did wrong. Shadow people at work, so just be shameless. Just ask anyone you can at any job you go to if you can learn what they do, because I think a majority of millionaires or really successful, self-made people that have the flexible lifestyles they want and the freedom they want. Most of them are business owners, and so you need to learn how to wear a lot of hats. So try to learn a lot of different skills and shadow. 6 figures isn't the goal. So when I was in college, I thought, man, if I can do what my dad did and make 6 figures by the time I'm 30, I'm gonna be a big achiever. And then I didn't think about inflation, right? So like his 100 grand is probably like 60 grand now, right? I didn't think about that. But then I realized that like the older I get, the more expensive things get. I have family. Cost of living in LA is high, and anyways, I've just learned to raise my sights, right? And so I learned that it's not evil to want money. It's evil if you're willing to do anything to get it. But it's really important to understand that it takes $4 million to retire on $200,000 a year, which is awesome, right? To have $4 million, you have to make $7 million because the government takes, 40% of it. So who knows if Social Security is going to be around? So it's really important to set your goals high and to not limit yourself. Work is half empty. I've seen so many people, especially in LA, where work consumes their lives, and they just work harder and harder and harder because they're trying to fulfill themselves. And there's work is fulfilling, but it's not. It's half empty, right? So it's always important, especially entrepreneurs have a problem with this. Most of us entrepreneurs have ADHD or OCD, and so we just hyper-focus on what we're doing and kind of leave everything out. It's important to focus on your family and your friends and have life balance. Deciding what you want is extremely important. The most important thing I did in college is I spent an insanely amount of time thinking about what it was I wanted to do. So I got like a 3.3, 3.4, And it's because I spent so much time studying industries. So don't just study your major, don't just study the industry, right? So I looked and saw that TV was going to be hard to break through, so I focused on social media. Get good with data. So it used to be good enough to have a pretty face and soft skills. You could do pretty well in life. It's not true anymore. Now you have to have a lot of science behind what you say and what you do. And so in whatever industry you're in, really focus on what kind of data you're going to have to be able to understand. Sell everything you have. So if you're interested in being an entrepreneur, try to just live as poor as absolute possible. All you really need is a roof, food, and health insurance. That's all you need, okay? And cheap travel, right? Live as poor as you can in every way you can. Don't have cable TV. Don't drive a new car. Get an old car that's reliable, and that will allow you to quit your job. That'll allow you to quit whatever it is you're doing, so that you can do what you need to do to feel fulfilled, without being stuck, without being enslaved in all of that stuff. The only thing, don't go cheap on food. Like, don't eat out a lot, but buy quality food, okay? You need to invest in your body as if it's Apple stock in 2004. That's the only thing you shouldn't live poor. And then suspend your Facebook every once in a while. Just shut it off for a week. It'll blow your mind how much time some of you spend on Facebook. So I measured it 1 week, and I had spent 20 hours scrolling my newsfeed. And in my head, I justify it as, I'm in social media. I need to. No, I'm like reading stupid stuff about Donald Trump and like stuff I don't need to. It has no value in my life. And so every couple months now, I'll just suspend my Facebook for a week, and I have these like power weeks where like my brain resets, and that's awesome. So I'm gonna leave it at that. I had all this really cool stuff about viral video. But I actually my last post on LinkedIn has all of this stuff in it. So if you guys want to catch up with that. But with that, this is my LinkedIn. The best way to get in touch with me is to just connect. And if any of you guys would like to message back and forth, I'd be happy to do that, and I'd love to connect. But thank you for your time. And I know I've talked really fast, but I really appreciate you guys taking the time to listen. Yeah.
All right, guys, before you go, we're just going to ask just 2 questions that the audience had. Then you're welcome to go. But what was asked was, Sarah wants to know, what was your most valuable experience at USU that prepared you for where you are now?
This is funny, but the most valuable experience I had was Preston Parker in one of my PR classes told me to sign up for a Twitter account. And I was sitting there, I was like, I'm not going to tweet. Like, what is that? Why am I going to tweet? Who cares? But it was a class assignment, so I had to do it. And I thought it was the dumbest thing in the world. And now it ends up being what I do for a living. So I'm glad he made me sign up for an account.
Okay, cool. And then Jeff asked, how do you get in contact with all the influencers for your videos?
Cool. So it's a lot easier than you think. Part of it is I have a lot of personal relationships with them. In the beginning, I thought that I had to act like a Hollywood agent and know everybody and be everybody's buddy, but it's not true. Really, you could find their email address usually on their About section on YouTube or somewhere else, and you can email them. Now, if they're bigger, they're not going to respond to you unless it's a really serious deal. The small and medium ones will respond to you if it's like a semi like noteworthy deal that you're bringing to them. But most of them either monitor their emails or have someone that does, and you'd be surprised. And the best way to do it is if you want, let's say you want to get 3 or 4 influencers for a campaign, make a list of 15, and then reach out to all of them, and then it's just a numbers game and getting down. So that's how we do it. And another insight that I'll tell you is that the most efficient way to buy influencers right now is to work with small and medium influencers. The big ones have started to really get huge, like Smosh and Jenna Marbles and those kind of guys. They're to the point now where they almost don't care about brand deals because like PewDiePie made like $12 million last year or something. And so they're inflated. There's 100 brands that want to work with them every month, and they'll work with one. And so the small and medium ones is the most efficient buy. So if you guys want to, in the next month or two, I'm going to actually release an info product that it's like a video series that teaches you how to do deals with influencers in like every aspect of it. But it's easier than you think, way easier than you think it is.
Okay.
And one thing I'll say too,
Go ahead.
sorry, I have to plug the startup, right? I have to. Socialbluebook.com. You guys can all log in there, and it will tell you what your value is on your social media channels if you were to take a brand deal, right? Really cool. So it's in beta right now. We're gonna roll that in the next month or two, and that will actually show you what influencers are worth, and you can just look by genre and by demographic and all that.
All right, awesome. Thank you, Travis. We
Thanks.
appreciate that.